I just stepped out of the hotel's front door. Does this look like Guatemala City? Technically, it is, but it does not look like any other part of the city. This is Cayalá. Whether it embodies the spirit of Guatemala is a matter of debate. It's stunningly beautiful, undeniably opulent, and yet controversial in ways that are impossible to ignore. I was well aware of the mixed emotions surrounding this place when I decided to stay here, but I chose it for one reason above all. Before diving into why I made my choice, let's explore what Cayalá really is and what makes it such a polarizing topic. Cayalá is a meticulously planned luxury enclave, a city within Guatemala City. Its name, derived from the Quechual Mayan language, means paradise, and it's easy to see why. From the moment you step inside, it feels like an immaculate utopia, a city upon a hill. Supposedly, its architecture draws inspiration from Guatemala's cultural and historical roots. Take the Azaria, the city hall, as an example. Its columns are topped with sculpted corn, a crop deeply tied to Guatemala's identity and history. The slender stairways leading up to it evoke the steep steps of ancient Mayan pyramids. The whitewashed facades and red-tiled roofs channel the Spanish colonial aesthetic. The pathways allow visitors to meander through its labyrinth unencumbered.
There are a lot of streets that are pedestrian only, which makes this place really walkable. I love it. You can walk anywhere and not worry about a car hitting you. And on top of that, it's just absolutely gorgeous.
Cayalá is a self-contained world. Within its borders, you can live, work, and play. High-end shops, cafes, and gourmet restaurants cater to residents and visitors alike, while cultural and recreational spaces provide entertainment for all ages. There's an amusement park for the kids to cut loose. There's even a zip-lining course tucked into this urban oasis. You'll find the U.S. Embassy here, as well as a university and a church, which further underscores its significance. Yet, amidst this nod to globalization and modernity, there's a strong sense of Americanization. Starbucks, Cinnabon, Dunkin', Domino's, Banana Republic, Nike, Office Depot, Taco Bell, McDonald's, Subway, and countless other familiar brands are everywhere. For those who can't afford it, Cayalá offers the promise of never having to leave its perfectly manicured streets. But Cayalá isn't all about consumerism. It also features captivating art installations. One of its most striking features is the Giant of Cayalá, a colossal marble sculpture. It's hard to get a true idea of its scale on camera, but it's about 10 feet in height and 60 feet in length. Having taken 3 years to sculpt and composed of about 75 tons of white marble, the piece is fragmented, perfectly incomplete. It reveals only select parts of the giant's figure: a foot, knee, upper torso, hand, and head. The giant gazes across the lawn. In the giant's line of sight are 3 unassuming bronze children sitting on rocks surrounded by water, facing the giant. One playing an instrument, one reading a book, and the last attempting to get their attention.
All right, so the scene with the giant, I think, is supposed to look like it's emerging from the ground. And this reminds me of a story from my childhood. I don't know if this is the exact story, but basically there's a giant directly across from some children. And I remember something about there was a giant who had like this garden, this beautiful garden.
Let me help out your girl here. She's had a long day. Once upon a time, in a land where seasons danced in harmony, a giant owned the most beautiful garden anyone had ever seen. It was a place of endless spring, where blossoms bloomed in every color imaginable.
Some kids got into the garden.
One day, as the giant was enjoying the garden's serenity, a group of children stumbled in, laughing and chasing each other.
And he didn't want anybody inside of his garden.
The giant, blinded by his love of perfection, saw their innocent games as destruction.
And so he locked up the garden.
Determined to protect what he cherished, he built a high wall around the garden. At its center, he placed a heavy door, one only he could open with his special key.
The giant has a giant key.
But with the wall came silence. The children no longer played, and though the flowers still bloomed, the air felt heavy.
The kids couldn't get in, but then winter came, and then winter never left.
The once vibrant garden fell into a deep slumber, blanketed in frost.
The giant got sad at the fact that it was always winter and his garden wasn't blooming.
The giant wandered his garden, now cold and empty, his heart heavy with regret. Eventually, he lay down on the frozen ground, overcome with sorrow. As he rested, the earth began to cover him. One day, the giant was stirred by a familiar sound.
Then, one day, he heard the laughter of children. Basically, the kids had found a way to get in.
The children were playing in the snow, in the garden he'd walled off to keep them out. At first, he felt anger rise within him. But then, he noticed something extraordinary.
And saw blooms, the first blooms in years.
Tender shoots of green pushed through the snow. The bright blooms began to color the garden. The children had brought spring back to his beloved sanctuary. The giant's heart was warmed by their joy and the return of life to his garden. He realized how selfish he had been. He had missed the sound of laughter and the sight of happy faces. The giant tore down the wall and welcomed the children into his garden forever.
I think that might be the story. I don't know. Maybe. Mom just texted, so that means it's time for dinner. Gonna head on back to the hotel. But I'm not done.
Dining out with Mom is always a delicate balancing act, one that's grown trickier with each passing year. She isn't bound by my dietary restrictions, but her pickiness has taken on a life of its own, driven more by personal whims than any practical limitations. Finding a place that satisfies us both often feels like solving a riddle with no clear answer. Guatemala City pleasantly surprised me with its abundance of vegan and vegetarian restaurants. In Cayalá, however, the polished, high-end establishments cater to a more mainstream palate, leaving me scanning menus to no avail. Still, I'm determined to uncover a spot that checks all the boxes, a place where Mom can indulge her ever-changing preferences, and I can find something that aligns with my plant-based diet. I've got her now, and I think I found a decent place for both of us. This restaurant oozed trendy charm, from its sleek, modern decor to the ambient music that pulsed loudly through the space, giving it an almost club-like vibe. The lighting, however, was so dim that navigating the menu required the flashlight on my phone, a small inconvenience in an otherwise stylish setting. Our server was attentive, exuding warmth and professionalism that immediately put us at ease. To drink, I got a refreshing and vibrant sangria that mingled sweet and tangy flavors. I could taste oranges, lemons, and apples. The red wine base offered a rich, berry-like note. For the appetizer, I ordered what I thought were cauliflower bites, envisioning a modest plate of crispy small florets. Instead, what arrived was an enormous platter, a veritable bushel of steaming golden brown cauliflower. I couldn't help but laugh at the sheer size of it. Thankfully, the server had carefully followed my request to omit Parmesan, ensuring it was just what I wanted. Each bite was perfectly seasoned, the exterior lightly crisp, and the inside tender and flavorful. My main course was a falafel burger, a creation that surpassed all expectations. The falafel patty was crispy on the outside, soft and herbaceous within, and paired with sweet potato fries. The lettuce had to go, though. Both dishes were not only delicious, but delivered with such care that it turned a simple meal into a memorable experience. I helped Mom get back to the hotel before going right back to the restaurant because it was too difficult to pick just one drink. The other options on the menu looked incredible.
I needed a drink, so bottoms up to a margarita. It's delicious. I chose to stay in Cayalá because Guatemala City has a so-so reputation when it comes to safety. The city is divided into more than 20 zones, and some of those zones are labeled as safe zones, but other zones aren't. If I was staying here on my own, I would have chosen to stay in Zone 10, Zona Viva, but I'm not here by myself. I'm here with my mom, and I have to leave her for an entire day to go and visit ruins. Her safety just wasn't a chance I was willing to take. However, Cayalá is different. It is clean. There's not a speck of trash anywhere. There are trash cans every couple of feet. It is orderly. I feel completely safe here. It's the opposite, really, of what I've seen of Guatemala City, at least so far. I would be remiss not to mention the negatives of Cayalá. There is security everywhere. There are security cameras everywhere. You are being monitored 24/7. Cayalá has a clear open and close time, and we're getting close to the close time. It doesn't apply to us because we're staying here. It applies to the non-residents. Everyone is welcome here at certain times, but there is a clear dividing line between the haves and the have-nots. With housing costs in the millions, everybody can afford to come here, but not everybody can afford to stay here. There are also people who just outright refuse to come here. This used to be a huge open space, a huge forest in Guatemala City. All of that was torn down to create an outdoor mall for the elites. Living here or staying here is a privilege that's not afforded to everybody. If you're familiar with Atlanta, specifically with Alpharetta, then this place is giving major Avalon vibes, and not everybody can afford to stay there either, so I guess I'm just not as bothered by it because I'm really used to it. At the end of the day, Cayalá is the safest place not just in Guatemala City, but in the whole country of Guatemala. Like Avalon, it represents a growing modernization trend, whether you love it or hate it. It's just a fact. I know my mom will be safe here without me, and that is the only thing that's important to me in the entire world.
Cayalá is both a refuge and a symbol. It's a bubble of luxury and security, offering an idealized version of urban living that's as polarizing as it is captivating. Whether you view it as a beacon of progress or a monument to inequality, Cayalá reflects a growing trend in Guatemala, a push toward modernization that brings with it both opportunity and complexity. For now, It's the safest place I can imagine for our stay in Guatemala City, and that alone makes it worth the compromises. Stay curious, be inspired, find freedom, wander elsewhere. I'll see you in the next one. Would you stay at Cayalá? Comment below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more great content. I'd love to hear what you think. Feel free to share your thoughts or answer the prompt in the comments below.